I got a text message this morning that indicated that I might possibly speak on the history of the National Federation of Republican Assemblies. That would be somewhat short. You guys, which is good, we have dinner to eat. The NFRA, of course, was founded in large measure as an initiative of the CRA just 12 years ago, and it has grown dramatically, and it has become a force in a number of states, and it continues to grow, and we're really proud of that. But I think there's a history lesson that is more valuable than our own navel-gazing. And I have to say, it's always a terrible thing to follow Ron Nehring. He's brilliant. He's done so much. I've been a fan ever since his work in San Diego County. And Ron pointed out, as we've just heard, that this is a center-right country. And I want to elaborate on that just a little bit. Because the truth is, in 2008, something really dramatic and unique happened, and you may not realize how unique it is. And it's this. We lost the presidency. You know that much. We lost the presidency for the first time, actually, since 1964. You say, how can that be? Well, let's walk down memory lane just a little bit. In 1964, Lyndon Johnson thumpingly destroyed our favorite hero pre-Reagan, Barry Goldwater. But of course, in 1968, Richard Nixon came back and won quite convincingly. If you throw in George Wallace's votes, which is a little bit fair, clearly conservatism outpolled Hubert Humphrey's continuation of the Great Society. In 1972, conservatism won 49 states. In 1976, you say, oh, but Rod, here comes Jimmy Carter. Wait just a second. In 1976, Jimmy Carter was perceived as that wonderful Southern Baptist Sunday school teacher from Georgia who talks kind of like me and couldn't possibly be threatening, and clearly must be one of those Southern conservative Democrats. And I kid you not, on Election Day, Jimmy Carter polled 4 points to the right of Gerald Ford. It didn't take very long for America to learn better. And in 1980, Ronald Reagan carried all but 6 states. In 1984, Ronald Reagan carried 49 states. Now, that's one party carrying 49 states twice in just about a decade. There is no parallel to that. And in 1988, George H.W. Bush carried 40 states. In 1992, you remember something strange happened on the way to the forum, and we had this interesting gentleman named Ross Perot talk about giant sucking sounds and so forth. And when you polled his radically large number of voters, considering he was a third-party candidate, it turns out that had he not been in the race, most of his voters would have, in fact, voted for George Herbert Walker Bush. And as a result, conservatism, though not Republicans, won the election. In 1996, you had an exact repeat of that, except Perot got a few fewer votes, but it still would have come out a conservative win. In 2000, you could claim a tie, but clearly George W. Bush won. In 2004, George W. Bush clearly won. And if you don't think that was a vote for conservatism, remember back 5 short years. George W. Bush ran on a platform of strong national security, tax cutting, and private Social Security accounts, and unabashed pro-life judicial nominees. Now, you may remember other things about the Bush years, as I do also, but that's what he ran on, and that's what won. So when we look at 2008, what I'm telling you is something really unique just happened. Conservatism, or what represents conservatism, was beaten for the first time since Barry Goldwater. Now, you see the polls. Conservatism is resurgent, and it's lifting the Republican vote with it. And this is a wonderful thing, if we don't screw it up. And what I want to say to you is this: how did we get to the point where it could lose? How can it be that we discredited our movement? And the answer is we sent an awful lot of people to office who did not govern as conservatives, did not talk like conservatives at any point except when they ran for office, and frequently were afraid to do even that. Let me ask you, can anyone name for me the highest number of states carried by a Democratic presidential candidate in modern history? 32. Conservatism can win anywhere. Now, Scott Brown is not my idea of a perfect conservative by any means. But Scott Brown ran on a program of fiscal conservatism in a state where even that is somewhat suspect, shall we say. And he ran for Teddy Kennedy's seat, for heaven's sake. And he thumped Coakley. And you know why? Because at the end of the day, conservatism works. Conservatism, unlike other ideologies, is a set of principles rooted in reality. You can't escape the law of gravity. You can't escape the law of relativity. You can't escape the law of supply and demand. You can't escape any of the laws that make up conservatism. If we will strongly make the case in the next 2 election cycles, and I want you to think about this as you eat your dinner, if we will strongly make the case for conservative, not just principles, but solutions in all of our races the next few cycles. And I understand there will be variations in how that sounds in Florida and in Texas and California and in Massachusetts. I understand that, and I'm sure you do too. But if we will strongly make the case in the way that Reagan did, in our new time, with our new problems, and not just criticize, but give answers, give solutions, and actually show how well they do work, I think we can be a 49-state party again. And I think we can be very soon. And likewise, if we continue to do what we have done, we can write ourselves off, because I think what you will see is you will see a lot of these Tea Party folks go off and form a third party, and you will see the Democrats run our country off the cliff in our lifetime before our eyes. Now you think about this for 1 second, and I assure you it will embolden you. And it's this. There's a country you've heard in the news lately, Chile, that you've heard in the terms of disaster. What you didn't hear in our very left-wing media was this, that this last fall, Chile, which has relentlessly and persistently under right-wing and left-wing governments followed free market principles now for 30 years, Chile, little bitty Chile, became the first country in the history of south of our border to ever enter the first world. They are a first world country, I kid you not, with a per capita GDP and standard of living equivalent to that of Italy and Spain, while Hugo Chavez and the Kirchners run the rest of South America into the dirt with yet another failed policy after failed policy after failed socialist policy. If you want to fix California, follow conservative principles. If you want to fix Massachusetts, follow conservative principles. If you want to solve the problems in Washington, follow conservative principles. Don't be that unspecific either. Work out a plan. Sell it to the voters. Show them that it works. Tell them these truths about Chile and other things. Because, folks, we're fighting for our country. This is it. It's all on the line right now. We will win in 2010. When they came out of Independence Hall, having formed the Constitution, a lady walked up to Ben Franklin and she said, "So what have you given us, sir?" And he said to her, "Ma'am, a republic, if you can keep it." That is where the Republican Party is this year. We have probably given us a majority this year. We will have our republic if we can keep it. And that is up to the people in this room.